The annual Peterson family reunion was in full swing at Uncle Richard's beachfront mansion in Newport, a $12 million testament to old money and older attitudes. The July sun sparkled off the Atlantic, almost as brightly as Aunt Margaret's Van Cleef and Arpels diamonds as she held court on the Brazilian ipewood veranda, passing judgment on the family's black sheep Amy. "Look at him," she stage whispered to my cousin Victoria, her voice carrying deliberately across the deck like a perfectly aimed social dagger. "Can't even afford a proper suit for a family gathering. Those boat shoes must be at least 3 years old. That's what happens when you abandon the family business for—" "What was it again, darling?" "Global logistics," I replied calmly, sipping my water while others enjoyed $2,000 bottles of Krug champagne. My worn Sperry boat shoes and simple linen shirt were a deliberate choice, though they didn't know that yet. The Patek Philippe watch hidden under my sleeve cost more than most of their cars. Uncle Richard emerged from his climate-controlled wine cellar, silver hair gleaming in the sunlight as he cradled a bottle of 1982 Lafite Rothschild like a newborn. "James, my boy, still playing with cargo ships? How's that working out for you? Still chartering those little container vessels?" The assembled Peterson clan turned to watch the familiar ritual, the successful family members reminding the outsider of his place. They were quite a collection. Investment bankers in bespoke suits, real estate moguls dripping with casual luxury, hedge fund managers checking stock tickers on their Bulgari phones. Old money meeting new money with me apparently having no money. Cousin Rebecca adjusted her Hermes scarf, shooting me a pitying look. "James, darling, I know a wonderful headhunter. She specializes in career rehabilitation for people who've made unfortunate choices." "Business is growing," I said simply, watching the boats in the harbor below. One particular vessel, hidden behind the marina's largest pier, brought a slight smile to my face. 300 feet of maritime innovation that would soon shatter their carefully constructed social hierarchy. "Growing?" Cousin Bradley snorted, adjusting his Rolex Daytona. The same model I'd declined when offered by the CEO of Rolex himself last month. "Last I checked, your little shipping company wasn't even listed on any major exchange. Meanwhile, my hedge fund just cleared $10 billion in assets. That's billion with a B, cousin, in case you've forgotten how to count the zeros." I nodded politely, remembering the meeting I'd had last week with Bradley's largest clients. They'd been very interested in moving their investments somewhere more innovative. My company's new automated logistics system had caught their attention, especially after it had revolutionized 3 major shipping routes. "James," my mother intervened, her tennis bracelet catching the light as she touched my arm, trying to be diplomatic, "we just worry about you. You had such promise at Harvard Business School before you quit to start this venture. Top of your class, offers from Goldman Sachs, McKinsey." "Quit is a strong word," I corrected, watching a flock of seabirds circle above the harbor. "I prefer to think of it as pursuing an opportunity. Sometimes the biggest opportunities don't come with prestigious letterheads." "Opportunity." Aunt Margaret's laugh tinkled like ice cubes in baccarat crystal. "Darling, opportunity is what you gave up. Richard offered you a vice presidency at Peterson Financial. Corner office, 7-figure bonus package, summer house allowance. Instead you're what? Chartering fishing boats? Moving cargo containers? Really, James, it's beneath the family name." "Something like that," I agreed mildly, checking my phone as a message came in. The captain's text was brief. "In position, sir. Ready when you are. All 28 crew members standing by. Helicopter fueled and waiting." Victoria sipped her champagne, her new engagement ring from some minor European prince catching the light. "At least tell me you've given up that ridiculous idea about autonomous shipping technology. What was it you called it? The future of maritime logistics." "The future is closer than you think," I replied, but Uncle Richard cut me off, swirling his wine with practiced sophistication. "You know, son, that offer still stands. Entry level now, of course. Can't have you jumping straight to VP after your experimental phase. But it's time to come back to the real business world. Learn the family business from the ground up like I did." I glanced at my watch, an apparently simple Philippe Dufour that had cost more than Uncle Richard's car, not that they'd recognize the brand. Only 10 existed in the world, and 3 of them belonged to tech billionaires who'd begged to invest in my company. "Actually, I should step out for a moment. Need to take a call about a delivery." "Delivery?" Victoria smirked, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. What, someone's fishing rod's getting shipped late? Or did one of your little containers fall off the boat? Not exactly, I replied, moving toward the deck's edge. Though speaking of ships. Right on cue, a massive yacht began moving into view from behind the pier. Even from this distance, its scale was impressive. 300 feet of cutting-edge naval architecture, gleaming white against the blue water. Solar-powered panels glinted along its sides, and the helicopter pad on the upper deck looked ready for action. The boat made Uncle Richard's prized 80-foot luxury yacht look like a dinghy. My word, Uncle Richard breathed, his wine forgotten. That must be Jeff Bezos' new vessel. Or maybe that Saudi prince who was in the news. The one who bought that football team. Look at the lines on that boat, Bradley whistled, professional envy creeping into his voice. Must be the new Lursen model. I heard they only made 3, all sold to billionaires before construction even started. The yacht drew closer, its name becoming visible on the bow in elegant lettering hand-laid in gold leaf, Black Sheep. My phone rang. I answered on speaker, letting everyone hear. Mr. Peterson? This is Captain Martinez. Your yacht, Black Sheep, is ready for your inspection, sir. Shall we send the helicopter to collect you and your guests? The chef has prepared lunch for 30, and the submarine is ready for afternoon excursions. The sound of Uncle Richard's $1,000 wine bottle shattering on the deck was remarkably satisfying, almost as much as watching Aunt Margaret's diamond necklace catch on her silk scarf as she whirled to stare at me in shock. The veranda fell silent except for the gentle lapping of waves and the distant purr of the approaching helicopter. Aunt Margaret's champagne glass slipped from her manicured fingers, creating a spreading stain on her $12,000 Oscar de la Renta dress. Your yacht. Uncle Richard stammered, aged cognac dripping forgotten from his Italian loafers. That's impossible. That vessel must cost $380 million, I supplied casually, straightening my simple linen shirt. Plus another $40 million in custom technology upgrades. The autonomous navigation system alone cost more than your mansion. Bradley rushed to the railing, squinting at the magnificent vessel through designer sunglasses. But your shipping company, it's not even listed. Publicly listed, I corrected, watching the yacht's helicopter pad illuminate for landing. We went the private route. More efficient. Last valuation put us at roughly 18 billion. That's billion with a B, cousin, since you're so fond of counting zeros. Victoria's minor European prince nearly choked on his caviar. 18 billion? For a shipping company. For a maritime technology company, I explained as the sleek helicopter approached. Those ridiculous, autonomous shipping ideas? They've revolutionized global logistics. Our AI-driven navigation systems control 40% of international shipping lanes now. Every major port uses our automation software. My phone buzzed again. I put it on speaker. Mr. Peterson, Secretary of Transportation, is confirming dinner aboard tonight. The Chinese maritime minister asks if he could join as well. And Mr. Musk sent another acquisition offer. Decline Elon's offer, I replied, enjoying the way Uncle Richard's face paled at my casual dismissal of the world's richest man. Tell the secretary 7 o'clock is fine, and of course the minister is welcome. The chef knows their preferences. Mom sank into a teak deck chair, her tennis bracelet catching the light. But you live in that tiny apartment. Drive that old car? The apartment is the penthouse of a building I own, I said gently. The old car is a custom Porsche designed to look understated. I prefer to let my work speak for itself. The helicopter was circling now, its downdraft sending empty champagne flutes rolling across the deck. Captain Martinez's voice came through again. Sir, shall I send the tender to collect your guests? The submarine crew is standing by for the afternoon reef tour. Submarine? Aunt Margaret whispered weakly. A custom deep-sea exploration vessel, I nodded. Part of our marine research division. We're mapping underwater shipping routes that could revolutionize Pacific trade. The Japanese government is particularly interested. Uncle Richard found his voice, though it quavered slightly. The vice presidency offer is worth less than what I make in interest per hour, I finished kindly. Though I appreciate the sentiment. By the way, you might want to move your investments from Bradley's fund soon. His largest clients signed with us last week. Bradley's Rolex-adorned wrist went slack. What? They were quite impressed with our AI-driven investment algorithm, I explained. It's a side project really. Uses our shipping data to predict market trends. Hasn't been wrong yet. The helicopter touched down on Uncle Richard's lawn, its gleaming black surface emblazoned with my company's logo. The pilot stepped out, immaculate in a crisp uniform, and opened the cabin door with a bow. "Sir," he called over the slowing rotors, "the yacht's chef wants to know if your guests have any dietary restrictions for the caviar service. He's prepared almas, beluga, and the rare golden ostra you procured last month." Victoria's prince dropped his champagne flute. "Golden ostra? That costs more than your title, I believe," I smiled. Though money isn't really the point. Success isn't about what you can buy, it's about what you can build. My phone chimed with another message. The assistant's voice was apologetic. "Sir, Forbes needs to confirm some details for their cover story. They're calling it The Black Sheep Billionaire, How a Harvard Dropout Revolutionized Global Shipping." Also, the Nobel Committee in Economics sent their preliminary notification. Sunset painted the Atlantic gold as we stood on the Black Sheep's upper deck, the helicopter safely stowed below. The yacht's 300 feet of maritime innovation made Uncle Richard's prized vessel look like a bath toy from our vantage point. Behind us, staff in crisp uniforms served drinks worth more than my cousin's monthly car payments. "More Macallan 1926, sir?" The chief steward approached with a bottle worth over $2 million. "Or perhaps the Louis XIII Black Pearl for your guests." "The Macallan is fine," I replied, watching my family try to process their new reality. They sat scattered across custom-designed deck furniture, each piece worth more than their supposed generous job offer to me. Uncle Richard swirled his crystal glass, the same nervous gesture he'd used earlier but now tinged with understanding. "James, about the vice presidency offer. Let's discuss something more interesting," I interrupted kindly. "Like how your shipping insurance premiums tripled last month when we declined to provide our safety systems to your fleet." He nearly dropped his glass. "That was you. Our AI navigation systems reduce accidents by 97%, I explained as a school of dolphins played in our wake. "Insurance companies charge accordingly for ships not using our technology. Most major fleets signed with us months ago. Which is why," Bradley cut in, his hedge fund manager's mind finally catching up, "Pacific shipping stocks plummeted last quarter. You disrupted the entire industry." "Disrupted?" I smiled, touching a hidden panel that transformed the deck's glass walls into information displays. "We revolutionized it. Captain, show them the global network." The screens lit up with real-time data. Thousands of ships moving across the world's oceans, all guided by our quantum computers and AI systems. Each vessel represented millions in revenue, billions in cargo, and countless saved lives thanks to our safety protocols. "Those red dots," I pointed to scattered ships moving erratically, "are vessels still using traditional navigation. The blue ones are ours. Notice the difference in efficiency, fuel consumption, and safety records." Aunt Margaret squinted at the displays through her designer glasses. "But how did you afford to develop all this? The startup costs alone." "Remember that worthless algorithm I developed at Harvard?" I asked. "The one you all mocked when I left to start the company? Morgan Stanley offered $2 billion for it before we even launched. We declined." $2 billion. Victoria choked on her champagne. "And you declined?" "Because we knew it was worth more," I nodded. "Last month, Goldman Sachs offered $40 billion for just our AI division. We declined that too." The chief steward approached again. "Sir, the Secretary of Transportation has arrived by helicopter. The Chinese maritime minister's vessel is requesting permission to dock alongside." "Grant it," I said. "And inform the chef we'll need the diplomatic menu tonight." I turned to my stunned family. "Unless you'd prefer to dine back at Uncle Richard's?" Nobody moved. The thought of returning to their previously impressive mansion now seemed laughably provincial. "While we wait for our guests," I continued, "perhaps you'd like a tour? The lower deck houses our quantum computing center. It's more powerful than most government facilities. Above us is the observation lounge with a glass bottom. You can watch whales pass beneath. The submarine bay is particularly interesting." "James," Mom asked softly, Why didn't you tell us? Would you have listened? I said. Every time I tried, you talked about real business and family traditions. So I built my own. My phone buzzed. Sir, Saudi fund offers $30 billion for a small stake. NASA wants our systems for Mars. Decline the Saudis, I said. Tell NASA we'll handle the lunar hub too. Bradley's hands shook. Our family fund is down 40% since your systems launched. 42%, I corrected. Traditional shipping is dead. I warned you last Christmas. The Chinese maritime minister's yacht pulled alongside ours, dwarfed by black sheep. I now own 51% of Peterson Financial, I said. Uncle Richard dropped his glass. Impossible. Our AI bought shares quietly, I explained. We'll modernize the company. Keep the name, family tradition. The U.S. Secretary of Transportation and the Chinese minister came straight to me. Mr. Peterson, the president loves your port modernization plan. Your AI has transformed trade routes, the minister added. In Mandarin, I replied, let's talk over dinner. Servers brought appetizers worth more than my cousin's salaries. James, Uncle Richard whispered, we were wrong about you. No, I said, signing documents. You were wrong about the future. The sun set as satellites tracked ships and quantum computers managed trade. I watched the end of old money and the rise of new innovation. Sometimes the black sheep becomes the captain of industry. And tonight I was sailing into the future. The crystal glasses clinked with forced cheerfulness at my family's monthly dinner gathering. Aunt Patricia's mansion, with its overwrought Victorian decor and army of staff, served as the perfect backdrop for their favorite activity, critiquing my life choices. So, Olivia, Aunt Patricia's voice dripped with artificial concern as she adjusted her pearl necklace, still between opportunities? I took a measured sip of water, noting how the butler hovered nearby with tomorrow's media deliveries. My cousin Marcus, fresh from his junior associate position at a mid-tier tech company, barely contained his smirk. Actually, I started, but my Uncle Gerald cut me off. Patricia, don't sugarcoat it. The girl's unemployed. Again. He emphasized the last word while cutting into his Wagyu beef. What was it this time? That little app company go under. If they'd bothered to read any tech news in the past year, they'd know that my little app company, Shadow Technologies, had just revolutionized artificial intelligence. But I'd purposely kept my name out of the press, using my middle name, Grace, for all public appearances. Until today. The app business is so unstable, my cousin Emma chimed in, adjusting her designer glasses. You should have taken that job offer at Marcus's company. At least it was a real position. Marcus nodded sagely. Entry level, but we could have trained you. Tech isn't for everyone, cousin. I bit back a laugh, thinking about the email I'd received this morning. Marcus's company was one of many that Shadow Technologies had just acquired in a series of strategic takeovers. He just didn't know it yet. Olivia, my mother sighed from across the table, we're just worried about you. 30 years old and nothing to show for it. Your trust fund won't last forever. The trust fund they thought I was living off had actually been fully invested in my company's initial development. Now it had multiplied several thousand times over, but they still pictured me as the family charity case. Remember when she turned down Harvard Business School? Aunt Patricia stage whispered to my uncle. Said she wanted to code in her garage instead. As if computers were a real career. The butler approached with a silver tray of magazines, tomorrow's advance copies that my aunt insisted on receiving to stay ahead of the social curve. Fortune magazine lay on top, its glossy cover facing down. Speaking of careers, Marcus continued, my company's stock is up 2% this quarter. We're really disrupting the industry. You probably read about us in Fortune. Fortune. My aunt brightened. Charles, do show us the new issue. I love keeping up with actual business success stories. The butler hesitated, his eyes flickering to me for just a moment. I gave him a slight nod. He'd been one of the first to figure out my secret, having seen the private documents I occasionally had delivered here. Of course, madam. He turned over the magazine with practiced elegance. The reaction was instantaneous. My aunt's fork clattered against fine china. Marcus choked on his wine. My mother froze with her glass halfway to her lips. There on the cover in crisp high definition was my face. The headline read, Shadow Technologies Olivia Grace Sterling, youngest tech billionaire reshapes artificial intelligence. The subheading was even better. How a 30-year-old coding prodigy built a $50 billion empire while staying in the shadows. That's not possible, Marcus sputtered, grabbing the magazine. This must be a mistake. No mistake, I said quietly, pulling out my phone and pulling up Shadow Technologies' acquisition announcement. Though you might want to read page 42. There's an interesting sidebar about our recent acquisitions, including, as of this morning, your company. The silence that followed was worth every moment of their previous condescension. 50 billion? My mother whispered, her voice faint. Give or take a few billion depending on the market, I replied, finally allowing myself to relax into my chair. The AI market can be quite volatile, as Marcus would know. Or will know once he reports to his new executive board on Monday. The butler, ever professional but clearly enjoying the moment, began serving dessert. Just as the first plate touched the table, every phone in the room began buzzing with breaking news alerts. The symphony of phone notifications continued as headlines flooded in. My aunt's perfectly manicured hands trembled as she read aloud. Shadow Technologies acquires 5 major tech companies in unprecedented move. CEO Olivia Sterling emerges as industry's new power player. Marcus had gone from red to pale, his phone displaying an urgent email from his company's HR department about upcoming organizational changes. He looked at me with dawning horror. You're my new boss? Actually, I smiled, taking another sip of water. I'm your boss's boss's boss. Though technically, after tomorrow's restructuring, your position will be, let's say, under review. But you've been unemployed. Aunt Patricia practically shrieked. Living in that tiny apartment, driving that basic car. That tiny apartment is actually the entire top floor of the Sterling Tower, I corrected her. I just used the service entrance to avoid attention. And that basic car is a custom-engineered prototype worth more than this house. My Uncle Gerald, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, finally found his voice. The Sterling Tower. You named it after yourself? No, I set down my glass carefully. I named it after Grandmother Sterling. You remember her, don't you, Uncle Gerald? The one whose foolish investment in my garage project started all this. The room fell silent again as they remembered their mockery of my grandmother's decision to fund my initial research. They'd called her senile when she liquidated her considerable assets to back my AI development. Now her portrait hung in the lobby of a building worth billions. Emma, ever the social climber, attempted damage control. Olivia, darling, we always knew you were special. Remember when I tried to introduce you to that nice IT boy from my country club? You mean the one you said could teach me basic coding? I pulled up another news alert on my phone. He actually works for me now. Heads our junior development team, though he's still working on basic coding himself. My mother's hand flew to her throat, a gesture she always used when losing control of a situation. But all those family dinners, when we tried to help you find real work, were highly entertaining, I finished for her. Especially the one where Marcus spent an hour explaining disruption to me, right after my AI system had revolutionized his company's entire market sector. The butler reappeared with coffee service, subtly placing the latest Wall Street Journal beside my aunt. The headline made her gasp. Shadow Technologies Sterling revolutionizes AI. How a secret billionaire built an empire in silence. I don't understand, Marcus muttered, still staring at his HR email. How did none of us know? How did you keep this secret? I leaned forward, enjoying the moment perhaps more than I should. Because you never bothered to look past appearances. You saw what you expected to see, the family disappointment, the unemployed cousin, the failed tech dreamer. Meanwhile, I was building something that would change the world. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my executive team. Ms. Sterling, the acquisition announcements have triggered a 30% surge in our stock price. Your net worth just increased by $15 billion. I showed them the message, watching as they calculated their years of condescension against my new reality. Now then, I smiled, shall we discuss the real reason I came to dinner tonight? The tension in the dining room could have been cut with one of Aunt Patricia's sterling silver knives. Every eye was fixed on me as I pulled out a sleek tablet from my cheap bag. Actually a prototype of our new flexible display technology disguised as a simple purse. As of midnight, I began activating a holographic display that materialized above the dinner table. Shadow Technologies will announce its next phase of innovation. We're not just revolutionizing AI anymore. We're completely transforming how technology integrates with daily life. The hologram showed our latest breakthrough neural interface technology that made smartphones obsolete. Marcus's company, which he'd bragged about all evening, was still working on touchscreens while we'd moved decades ahead. But before that announcement, I continued, watching their faces reflect the blue glow of the hologram, I wanted to give my family the courtesy of understanding their new positions. Positions? My mother whispered. Yes. You see, Grandmother Sterling didn't just invest in my garage project. She left very specific instructions about the family's future involvement in the company. I pulled up her will on the holographic display. Each family member has a choice to make tonight. Aunt Patricia straightened in her chair, pearls gleaming as she calculated her options. What kind of choice? Simple. You can either maintain your current lifestyles, completely separate from Shadow Technologies. I paused, letting them see the latest stock valuations, or you can join the company in entry-level positions, learning the business from the ground up, just like I did. Entry-level. Marcus sputtered. But I'm already a junior executive. I corrected. Your position was eliminated in the acquisition. But I'm offering you a chance to earn a real position, not one bought with family connections. The butler silently began distributing folders I'd prepared. Inside each was a detailed assessment of their current financial situation alongside their potential future with Shadow Technologies. "My God," Uncle Gerald muttered, reading his file. "These stock options are worth more than your current net worth," I finished. "But they have to be earned. No shortcuts, no nepotism, no trading on the Sterling name. You'll start at the bottom, learn every aspect of the business and prove your value." Emma frantically flipped through her folder. "But this says we'd have to relocate to the tech development campus." "In Montana," I nodded. "Where our main research facility is hidden. Away from the spotlight, away from social clubs and country club connections. Just pure innovation and hard work." My mother's hands trembled as she read her file. "Olivia, sweetheart, all this time while we were trying to fix your life, you were too busy maintaining appearances to see what was really happening," I said softly. But Grandmother saw it. She understood that true success isn't about fancy dinners and social connections. It's about vision, determination, and the courage to work in silence while others judge you. I stood up, smoothing down my deliberately simple dress, actually woven with microscopic sensors that monitored everything from body temperature to stress levels, another innovation they'd never noticed. "You have until midnight to decide," I announced. "Those who choose to join will report to orientation Monday morning. Those who don't," I smiled, thinking of all their condescending comments over the years, "can read about our success in Fortune magazine." "And Marcus's company?" Aunt Patricia asked weakly. "Will be completely restructured. The old hierarchy based on family connections and social status is over. Merit and innovation are all that matter now." My phone buzzed one final time. The stock had jumped another 20% on leaked rumors of our neural interface announcement. I showed them the update, watching as they calculated their potential futures against their past treatment of me. "Oh," I added, picking up my bag, "and Aunt Patricia? That unemployed joke you made earlier? It just cost you about $3 billion in potential stock options. Decisions have consequences." As I walked out of the mansion, I heard the chaos erupting behind me, arguments about choices, recriminations about past behavior, desperate negotiations with each other. But I didn't look back. In my basic car, actually an AI-driven prototype worth more than their combined net worth, I smiled thinking about Grandmother Sterling's last words to me. "Let them underestimate you, dear. There's no sweeter success than the one they never saw coming." My phone lit up with the final headline of the night. Shadow Technologies CEO reveals next-gen neural interface tech world stunned by innovation from unknown billionaire. Unknown no longer, I thought, driving toward my real office. Not the modest apartment they knew about, but the spectacular penthouse lab where we were reshaping the future. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in proving people wrong, but in letting them slowly realize just how right you were all along. And as for family dinners, well, they were about to get a lot more interesting for those who earned the right to attend them. Because success, like the best technology, doesn't need to announce itself. It simply needs to work perfectly when finally revealed. The aftermath of my revelation rippled through the tech world and my family with equal force. The next morning, as I sat in my real office, a stunning glass-walled command center atop Sterling Tower, the decisions started rolling in. Marcus was the first to respond, his email arriving at exactly 11:59 p.m. I accept the entry-level position. I understand now what real innovation means. Attached was a humble, almost painful admission of how wrong he'd been about technology, leadership, and most importantly, about me. Emma followed shortly after, though her acceptance came with a telling request. Can I at least keep my social media presence? The answer, of course, was no. Shadow Technologies employees operated under strict privacy protocols, something she'd learn in her new position in our data security department, starting from the absolute bottom. Aunt Patricia's response was perhaps the most surprising. Rather than accept or decline, she requested a private meeting. When she arrived at Sterling Tower the next morning, gone were the pearls and designer outfit, replaced by a simple business suit. I've been thinking all night, she said, standing in my office with an unfamiliar humility. About what Margaret, your grandmother, used to say about true worth versus apparent worth. I gestured for her to continue, watching her take in the spectacular view of the city, a view that included her mansion, now looking remarkably small from this height. She tried to tell us, didn't she? About you, about the future of technology. We were too busy counting our social connections to see what was right in front of us. And now? I asked, pulling up her file on my holographic display. Now I want to learn. Really learn. Not for the money or the status, but because I finally understand what Margaret saw in you. The future. I studied her for a moment, then pressed a button on my desk. A hidden door opened, revealing a sophisticated laboratory. This was grandmother's original investment in me, a secret lab she built while everyone thought she was renovating her penthouse. Would you like to see what real innovation looks like? Her eyes widened as she took in the advanced technology: quantum computers, neural interface prototypes, AI systems that made current technology look prehistoric. Welcome to Shadow Technologies' true headquarters, I said, leading her inside. Your orientation starts now. My mother chose a different path. Her letter arrived by courier, handwritten, tear-stained, and deeply reflective. She didn't want a position in the company. Instead, she asked to establish a foundation in Grandmother Sterling's name, supporting young innovators who, like me, had visions others couldn't see. Uncle Gerald, predictably, declined any involvement. His pride couldn't handle starting over at the bottom. Last I heard, he was trying to launch a competing tech company, unaware that Shadow Technologies already owned the patents to everything he was trying to develop. The most profound change, however, came in how they all began to see the world around them. Suddenly, every basic car might be a disguised prototype, every modest apartment could hide a revolutionary laboratory, and every unemployed relative might just be the next billionaire innovator they'd failed to recognize. At the next family dinner, held in my penthouse lab rather than Aunt Patricia's mansion, the conversation was markedly different. Instead of social gossip and status symbols, they discussed quantum computing and neural pathways. Those who'd accepted positions shared their struggles and discoveries in learning real technology from the ground up. Marcus, particularly, had transformed. 4 months into his entry-level coding position, he'd already developed a promising algorithm. I finally understand, he told me one evening. Success isn't about looking successful. It's about building something meaningful. The invitation to my cousin Diana's wedding at the Crystal Bay Resort sat on my desk alongside acquisition reports for 3 new luxury properties in the Caribbean. The irony wasn't lost on me. While my family thought I worked as a mid-level hotel manager, I actually owned 17 luxury resorts worldwide, including the very one where Diana was planning her exclusive wedding. Miss Alexandra Stone? My assistant Catherine knocked softly. The Crystal Bay manager called. Your cousin's wedding planner is making some unusual demands. I smiled, thinking of Diana's last family gathering comment. Oh, Alex still works at that budget hotel in the city. We must remember to invite her, though she probably can't afford the resort stay. Let them have whatever they want, I instructed. But maintain the cover. As far as they know, I'm just another guest. For now. Catherine hesitated. There's something else. Your cousin is insisting on the Ocean View Presidential Suite. The one you usually use when you're there. Perfect. I looked out my penthouse office window, overlooking the city where my family thought I lived in a tiny apartment. Let's give her exactly what she wants. The Stone family dynamics had always been interesting. While my cousins Diana and Marcus flaunted their moderate success with designer labels and leased luxury cars, I'd quietly built Stone Hospitality Group into one of the largest luxury resort companies in the world. Not that they knew that. They still thought I was the poor cousin who couldn't quite make it. My phone buzzed. Aunt Patricia, Diana's mother. Alexandra darling, about the wedding. We know it might be difficult for you to afford the resort stay. Perhaps you could just come for the ceremony? I thought about the meeting I'd had that morning, approving a $50 million renovation for Crystal Bay's West Wing. The same wing where Diana's exclusive wedding would be held. I'll manage somehow, I texted back, enjoying the private joke. The wedding was 3 days away, and I'd been watching the family drama unfold through daily reports from Crystal Bay's management. Diana had been making increasingly elaborate demands, dropping hints about her connections to ensure special treatment. Miss Stone. Catherine appeared again. Your aunt just called the resort directly, trying to get a discount on Diana's booking. She mentioned you work in the hotel industry. I laughed softly. What did they tell her? That they'd have to check with the owner. Catherine's eyes twinkled. She's now demanding to speak with A.R. Stone personally. Or Stone. My professional identity. Alexandra Rose Stone, the mysterious hotel magnate who'd built an empire while maintaining almost complete anonymity. The industry knew the name but not the face. My family knew the face but not the name. Let her wait, I decided. Some revelations are better served at the perfect moment. I picked up the latest report from Crystal Bay. Diana had been bragging to her friends about having the most expensive suite at the resort. She had no idea that the Ocean View Presidential Suite was actually my private residence when I stayed there, designed to my exact specifications. My phone buzzed again. This time my mother, the only person who knew the truth about my success. Honey, are you sure you want to let them keep believing you're struggling? Diana's being particularly cruel about your budget lifestyle. Just a few more days, Mom, I replied. Sometimes the best lessons come from unexpected teachers. I turned to the wall of monitors showing live feeds from all my properties. Crystal Bay was my first acquisition, bought 6 years ago when Diana had mockingly suggested I aim higher than budget hotels. The purchase had been complicated, requiring me to maintain anonymity to avoid family interference. Miss Stone, Catherine called through the intercom. Your cousin Marcus just arrived at Crystal Bay. He's demanding an upgrade to the executive suite, claiming he's friends with the owner. I switched to Crystal Bay's security feed, watching my cousin throw his usual tantrum at the front desk. Marcus, Diana's brother, had spent years building his luxury lifestyle consulting business, mainly by exaggerating his connections to wealthy clients. Tell them to upgrade him, I instructed. But put him in the South Wing. The South Wing, currently undergoing subtle preparations for a complete renovation next month. Nothing obviously wrong, just small imperfections that would drive Marcus crazy. Slightly delayed room service, temperamental air conditioning, a view partially blocked by scaffolding. My phone lit up with another text from Diana. Alex, darling, I heard you actually managed to book a room. How resourceful. Though you might be more comfortable at the Highway Motel nearby. This is a luxury resort after all. I glanced at the ownership papers on my desk, thinking about the moment approaching when they'd all learn who really owned their precious luxury resort. But timing was everything, in business and in lessons about humility. I'll manage, I texted back, adding, though I might be a little late to the rehearsal dinner. Work obligations, you understand. Of course, came her reply. Still at that budget hotel? You really should consider a career change, darling. Not everyone is meant for the luxury hospitality industry. If she only knew that at that very moment, I was finalizing the purchase of another 5-star resort in Dubai, adding to Stone Hospitality Group's growing international portfolio. The budget hotel where they thought I worked? I owned that too, along with the entire chain. Sometimes the best cover story is the one people want to believe. I pulled up the guest list for Diana's wedding, noting how many of the exclusive attendees were actually my business associates, none of whom knew their mysterious CEO would be there as the poor cousin. "Catherine," I called, "make sure my usual suite is perfect for Diana. Let's give her exactly the luxury experience she thinks she deserves." After all, sometimes the best revenge isn't about proving people wrong. Sometimes it's about letting them prove themselves wrong in the most spectacular way possible. And in 3 days at her perfect luxury wedding, my dear cousin Diana would learn exactly who owned her fairy tale venue. Sometimes success doesn't need to announce itself. Sometimes it just needs to wait for the perfect moment to be revealed. The day before the wedding, I arrived at Crystal Bay Resort through the private entrance usually reserved for A.R. Stone. The irony of sneaking into my own property to maintain my cover wasn't lost on me. "Miss Stone," Thomas, the resort manager, greeted me discreetly. "Your cousin has been quite demanding. She's currently in your suite complaining about the champagne selection." "My personal collection isn't good enough for her?" I asked amused. The suite's wine cellar held vintages worth more than Diana's annual income. She insists the Dom Perignon isn't exclusive enough. She's demanding to speak with the owner about upgrading to something more prestigious. I checked the security feed on my tablet. Diana was in my suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids, critiquing every detail of the $15,000 per night accommodation that I'd personally designed. "The owner simply must do better," she was saying. "Daddy's friends stay at Crystal Bay all the time. They know A.R. Stone personally." I suppressed a smile. Uncle Robert, Diana's father, had never met A.R. Stone, though he'd claimed otherwise at every family gathering for the past 5 years. "Alex." Diana's voice cut through my thoughts as she spotted me in the lobby. "Oh darling, you actually came, though." She paused, eyeing my simple black dress. "Perhaps you should use the service entrance? Guests here have certain standards." "Noted," I replied calmly, thinking of the ownership papers in my briefcase. "How's the presidential suite?" "Adequate," she sniffed, though hardly what I expected. "I've been trying to reach the owner about some necessary upgrades. Obviously, you wouldn't understand given your limited exposure to luxury." Just then Marcus appeared, looking irritated. "This place is going downhill. My room's air conditioning is temperamental, and room service took 12 minutes longer than promised." "Really?" Diana looked horrified. "But Crystal Bay is supposed to be perfect. Daddy assured me A.R. Stone runs the tightest ship in the industry." "About that," Marcus added, "I dropped Father's name at the front desk, claiming we know A.R. Stone personally. They seemed unimpressed." I watched Thomas struggling to maintain his professional composure. He, like all senior staff, knew exactly who I was. "Miss Stone," he said carefully, "would you like to see your room? It's in the north wing." Diana laughed. "Oh, Alex can't afford the north wing. We put her in the garden view section. Much more appropriate for her budget." "Actually," I replied, "I have a suite." The north wing contained my second private residence in the resort, unknown even to most staff. "Impossible," Marcus scoffed. "Those suites cost more than you make in a month at that budget hotel." Catherine appeared right on cue. "Miss Stone, sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call from Dubai about the new acquisition." "Dubai?" Diana's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. "Why would you be involved with anything in Dubai?" "Work matter," I said vaguely. "Hotel industry stuff. Nothing you'd find interesting." "Speaking of hotels," Marcus cut in, "Father's been trying to invest in some luxury properties. He claims he's close to a deal with Stone Hospitality Group." I thought about the investment proposal from Uncle Robert that had been sitting unopened on my desk for weeks. He'd sent it to A.R. Stone, hoping to leverage his non-existent connection. "How fascinating," I murmured. "Yes, we're all quite connected in the luxury hospitality world," Diana preened. "Unlike some people who never managed to rise above mid-level management." Just then my phone buzzed, an alert about Uncle Robert arriving at the resort. The security feed showed him at the front desk, throwing around A.R. Stone's name and demanding special treatment for his daughter's wedding. "Excuse me," I said, "I need to handle something." I walked to my private elevator, enjoying Diana's outraged gasp as Thomas cleared the way for me. "That's for premium guests only," she called after me. In my North Wing suite, I pulled up the resort's management system on my laptop. Diana had spent the morning making increasingly expensive demands, assured that her connection to the owner would cover the costs. "Catherine," I called, "please inform the wedding planner that all of Miss Stone's requests have been approved. Every single one. Even the last-minute helicopter arrival for the ceremony? Especially that." I smiled, thinking of the Stone Hospitality Group logo that would be clearly visible on the helicopter's side. My phone lit up with another text from my mother. "Darling, Robert's telling everyone he's meeting A.R. Stone tomorrow before the wedding. Please tell me you're finally going to end this charade." "All in good time," I replied. "First, let's see how much more they can dig themselves in." Through the security feeds, I watched my family members arrive one by one, each trying to outdo the others with their claims of knowing the mysterious A.R. Stone. Uncle Robert was now telling anyone who would listen about his private investment meetings with the resort owner. Diana had gathered her bridesmaids in my presidential suite, giving them a tour as if she owned the place. Of course, once Daddy's investment deal goes through, we'll practically be part owners. A.R. Stone clearly recognizes our family's status. I switched off the feed, turning instead to the final preparations for tomorrow's revelation. Sometimes success is sweetest when served with a side of perfectly timed humility. And tomorrow at Diana's fairy tale wedding, her poor cousin would finally show the family exactly what success really looks like. The morning of Diana's wedding dawned perfectly as I'd ensured it would. I'd had the resort's weather monitoring system track conditions for weeks, planning the ceremony time to coincide with the most picturesque sunset. I dressed carefully in my North Wing suite, choosing a simple but exquisitely tailored Chanel dress, one that Diana would recognize from her countless failed attempts to purchase from their exclusive collection. The irony that I sat on Chanel's board of directors wasn't lost on me. "Miss Stone," Catherine appeared with my morning briefings, "your uncle is in the lobby demanding an emergency meeting with A.R. Stone before the ceremony. He's making quite a scene." I checked the security feed. Uncle Robert, red-faced and gesturing wildly, was telling the front desk staff about his personal friendship with me, or rather with A.R. Stone. "Let him continue," I instructed. "How's Diana handling the morning?" "She's in the presidential suite, complaining about the helicopter being white instead of gold. She's insisting that A.R. Stone personally promised her father a gold helicopter." I smiled, remembering all the family events where Diana had showcased her latest designer purchases while pitying my limited lifestyle. "Is everything ready for the ceremony?" "Yes, including the special announcement you requested." The wedding was scheduled for sunset at the resort's private beach, where I'd had a crystal pavilion constructed, a new permanent feature that Diana thought had been built specially for her wedding. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Alex, where are you? Diana's furious that you missed the morning preparations. Though perhaps it's better. Your presence might make things awkward with the luxury crowd." I ignored the message, instead watching the security feeds as my family members arrived in their designer outfits, each trying to outdo the others with their displays of wealth. The same relatives who'd spent years mocking my modest career were now bragging about their connections to my company. "Miss Stone," Thomas appeared at my door. "It's time. The ceremony starts in an hour, and your cousin is demanding A.R. Stone's presence." "Perfect," I said, picking up a folder containing ownership documents and board meeting minutes. "Let's not keep them waiting." I took the private elevator to the beach level, emerging just as Diana was having another meltdown about the champagne selection. She demanded bottles from my personal collection, wines that weren't available for public purchase. "This is unacceptable," she was saying. "Daddy promised that his friend A.R. Stone would provide the best. Where is the owner? I demand to speak with them immediately." "Your wish is granted," I said quietly, stepping into view. Diana whirled around, her custom-designed dress rustling. "Alex, this isn't the time for your... What are you wearing?" She stared at my Chanel dress, recognition and confusion fighting on her face. "The same collection you tried to order last month," I confirmed. "The one they told you was reserved for special clients only." "That's impossible," she whispered. "They said those pieces were only for their board members and major shareholders." I finished for her. "Yes, I know. I was in that board meeting." Uncle Robert chose that moment to storm over. Alexandra, where have you been? We're having a crisis here. The owner of this resort is ignoring my calls, after all our personal dealings. Personal dealings? I raised an eyebrow. Like the investment proposal you sent to A.R. Stone 3 weeks ago? The one sitting unopened on my desk. The silence that followed was deafening. Diana's perfect makeup couldn't hide her growing shock. Marcus, who had been complaining about his room to anyone who would listen, froze mid-sentence. Your desk. Uncle Robert stammered. I nodded to Thomas, who stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Alexandra Rose Stone, owner of Crystal Bay Resort and CEO of Stone Hospitality Group. The chaos that erupted was almost worth the 6 years of hiding my success. Diana's bridesmaids, who'd been mockingly offering to help me network with the luxury crowd, suddenly looked like they might faint. This is a joke, Diana finally managed. You work at a budget hotel. You can barely afford. I own that budget hotel, I interrupted. Along with 16 other luxury resorts worldwide. That presidential suite you've been critiquing? It's my private residence when I'm here. Those wines you called inadequate? My personal collection. Marcus stepped forward, his face pale. The Dubai deal everyone's been talking about. Stone Hospitality Group's newest acquisition, I confirmed. Which I was finalizing while you were complaining about your room's air conditioning, in the wing scheduled for renovation next month, by the way. Uncle Robert sank into a nearby chair. All these years when I was claiming to know A.R. Stone. You did know me, I said quietly. You just didn't know you knew me. You were all so convinced that success had to look a certain way that you never noticed it standing right in front of you.